I think our last one was way back before the new year. With us this time is infamous DM of Doom, the puzzle master himself. And we thought it a fitting time to bring the DM onto Raging Recaps because we're fairly close to wrapping up our bastardized Waterdeep Dragon Heist campaign.
One way to talk about it,
Yeah, so keen to pick DM of Doom brain on, everything that we've covered in the campaign so far, and what potentially could happen in the next episode or two. So, Robin, hello. Thanks for coming.
Hi.
Thanks for making yourself available.
Thanks for having me.
So, let's go back to the start of Waterdeep. Yeah, remember, it was like one of the first times we all got together as a group. And
yes.
We had this lovely big table. You were sketching out maps on the fly, and then those wet dry erase markers didn't quite rub off as you expected. Remember that? What were you thinking at that point? If you can take yourself back to then, about what have I got myself into here?
So that one was our first night. We found ourselves sort of in a crowded game center at that point. And it's a weird situation to go into a group where you know nobody, and there we were, just a bunch of strangers. A few people sort of knew each other, but I was there in a new city, just trying to make a little group work, just so that some regular D&D, all we can ever hope for, and that quickly evolved into the group we have mostly today, and we got into Waterdeep. And what was our first session?
I remember rolling characters, and most of us were like, what are we doing? There's so many dice, I don't know what's going on. There's about 1,000 people at this table.
Because I remember we did the first one at the pub, which was kind of like a mini adventure, which I don't think ended up rolling into anything else.
No, they were just a one-shot.
It was a one-shot. And then we did the big one, where I think that one was at the Game Traders? Or?
Yeah, that was at Game Traders. Yeah.
So that's when we got Dan for the first time in that section, as well as a Hinsa, I believe.
Yeah. And
so
Nick
that was when
too. Yeah.
And Nick was there too. We started kicking it off in a big way, and then that was awesome. Like having that bunch of people, and kind of it felt like us as people and our characters were all in like our initial introductions. So it was like the right setting for getting to know everybody, and obviously that first session where that's right, the troll comes out of the hole in the middle of the yawning portal, and everybody sort of can just jump up and can fight it, and the bartender also jumps out with a sword and starts like fighting with you guys as well. And then from there you break up the bar brawl that occurs between one of the orcish women that are in there, as well as some of the sort of a bandit group, and giving you guys a bit of a taste of the combat, as well as a bit of the social side of things. But I think that was sort of where we ended the first session in there, all the way through to getting the tavern set up once you finally rescued. At that point, it was Neverember, the son of the previous High Lord of Waterdeep, and sort of get him out of a bit of trouble, and his friend gifts you guys the what turns into the Winchester shield.
I remember when we first got given that quest, and I remember being the ranger. I thought, I'll try and be really sneaky and have a look inside the window, and I'm like, I'm going to throw a rock into the building to see if anyone gets distracted by it. And you're like, yep, the glass shatters. I'm like, oh man. It's like one of those moments where I'm trying to be really, really strategic and think about what's going to happen, and didn't even think about there's glass in the window.
That's one of those DM moments where you're like, you can throw it if you want.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you said that, and I was like, yeah, just do it. Yeah.
Was that? Did you guys end up going through and having the moment with the Kenku?
Yes.
Yes, and then the guard captain came and escorted Neverember back to his lodgings.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
You guys sort
Good
of
memories.
got through that, and from there, the adventure really came into its own. I think when you all started to settle down a little bit inside of the tavern and inside of the Winchester Shield. You got to from there start to uncover a little bit of the mystery and the goings on of the city. So you started to get a bit of a picture of the different players that were at works. So lots of different factions, but from the party's perspective, obviously we had some of the bigger baddies that were operating, including the now infamous Xanatha, who sort of was working in the background. Yeah.
I remember when we got to the point where we got given the deed to the Winchester, or whatever it was called at the time. I remember thinking, what do we do here? We've got like a house? What? Obviously my first campaign. I'm like, do we set up a business? Like, what? I've never just go and bash the crap out of stuff.
Well, I mean, that was kind of the first agency that you all had as characters.
Yeah.
There's definitely, if we talk about probably the first divergence from the story, you guys as a group never really engaged with the tavern and the business. You guys used it as a base of operations, which was fine, but the business itself kind of never got really anywhere. You didn't invest money into sprucing it up. You never hired any sort of staff to man it for you. It was always this thing where you guys knew that eventually you could turn it into a bar, but it never got to the point where you guys were sort of just drinking your own supply, and that became kind of the Winchester Shield. It was this establishment that was there, that was well lived in, but only really for you guys.
Yeah, it was what was I going to say? The Dennis that our resident ghost of the Winchester. Yes. How much of that kind of character was part of the original module versus was that just you saying someone's got to serve the drinks and run this joint?
Well, the character himself was there. So there was a ghost character that was part of the bar, and the main motivation of that character was that they just wanted the bar fixed again. Whoever they were attached to the original bar, and it was like it really hurt them to see it in such disrepair. Which we see later pay off when, as a result of the bar being burnt, he flips out because his only care in the whole world, the thing that's been keeping him going, and he thought you guys were kind of there to help him, and suddenly Bear sets the entire house on fire, or was it Claymore? So somebody does some damage to it, and the ghost just loses it, and that's kind of the that's all he wanted, and you guys gave it to him for a while, and then just ripped it out of his cold dead heart.
To be fair, what's a ghost going to do to us? What damage could he do?
I mean, he tried.
He almost destroyed us, I'm sure of it. So at that point, after we'd got the deed, we'd renamed the Winchester and basically just drunk whatever was there. Were we still within the scope of the module?
I would say that there was still definitely the room for you to sort of to walk the traditional path.
Yeah.
At that point, it was just a matter of sort of following along nicely.
Mm-hmm.
But Waterdeep Dragon Heist was quite a political campaign. In the sense that there were a lot of little story details, a lot of factions, a lot of different bits and pieces to keep following. that because of the cyclical nature of the stream and trying to like remember week on week, it was hard to really convey the different moving pieces to you guys as a group, especially because the focus of the group was usually just seeking adventure, right? It was always like, let's go, this sounds like a good time, we could fight something here, or we could fight something there, which is awesome, but it did require a little bit of, I guess from my point of view, I realized the best way that we could have fun in the setting is to have the story kind of unfold in front of us, a little bit less of a sleuthing mission, but more of a wow, we've somehow found ourselves in the middle of some serious politics, and I think that went well when I made sort of that shift in the campaign.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, when things were coming up around the different factions, and God help me, I can't remember the names of them at the moment. I was confused as hell, man. I had no idea, because I think that Red Helm was part of a faction that spawned somewhere in his backstory, and as was maybe Beowulf had some connections somewhere, and
Zim had connections.
And I was just like, what the hell is going on?
It just really did become cluttered, and personally, I felt being a bit cluttered at that point too, and I just sort of thought, no, let's simplify it way back, and let's just focus on like the core group, and the fun we can have, instead of trying to fit in all of this convoluted background noise. And I think that made a very different view of what was going on at Waterdeep than I think was intended in the adventure.
Mm-hmm. How did you find DMing for, I guess, a fairly net new group as opposed to your years of experience before this, for this year?
I love DMing for new people. It's always been really great to me to see people, like you talk about that, throwing that rock through the window, like that moment where you realize that it's an option for you to just throw a rock through a window, and like there's consequences, and that there's like, it's not a game system where you have 4 moves to pick from. You kind of have the flexibility to do whatever you want. That seeing players come to that realization and enjoy the creativity that comes from that. Another great moment very recently was obviously when I think, was it Claymore that called out for Tia, or was it?
It was
Dan?
Red
Helm. So that moment where you realize that, I don't have like a character move that's going to solve the situation. Yeah. How do I solve this impossible problem? And then you're like, oh shit, I've got a god out there. Like, let's just try something. And it's like those moments for me are just so awesome, because it just people coming to love the hobby like I do, and obviously fall for the simple magic of just being able to be a as you say, a ranger in a fantasy world that picks up a wolf in the beginning and starts to just sort of walk around and experience a new city through the lens of this era. I think it's brilliant. There's definitely like when you get to like the more experienced players, and I'm sure when we get into the second campaign, there's a tendency to like, hey, I know what worked before, let's just do that again. Where it's like, I think there's something beautiful about coming at it with no expectations in sort of that first campaign.
Yeah, fair. I think that comes down to really putting your head putting yourself into the head of the character, right, instead of into the game mechanics.
And like you guys now know what a beholder does, and what a beholder is, for example, and it's like that. Yeah, I mean, for sure. It's like being able to now in the future take that and not let it influence your character choices. It becomes the next phase of being a player in the game. It's like you have meta knowledge, but now you can't put that meta knowledge into your character.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I've got a few different reference things behind me here. I've got the monster manual and stuff, and I'm intentionally not looking at it unless I absolutely need to. But not to like, I'm certainly not trying to look up stat blocks of things you're throwing at
No.
us, that's for sure.
And I guess that's the biggest difference, right? Like, I guess the way I DM, I often take inspiration from the monster manual, but I often find things like the monster manual, again, just put D&D into a bit of a box. It's like a beholder can only do this particular thing in combat. Where, like, personally, I believe that things like a beholder and other enemies that we face, they should be so much more competent, and I think sometimes I'll add things that just make sense for them to be able to do. Like one of the things that Xanathar was able to do, being a wielder of magic, not just throwing eye stalk beams at people, but also being able to jump away and trying to create space and teleport. That was something that I added, preemptively, which ended up him in his trial to escape dying, but he still tried to escape, which I think made him a little bit more human, a little bit more relatable.
Yeah, so you're trying to tell me that he was pulling off moves that he had no right to do, as per the spec.
Sure.
Yeah, but right. That's awesome though, right? Because you have that flexibility, and you can just this guy's not going to hang around. He's starting to get a bit in trouble. This is not his time to shine.
A great example would be like a dragon, right? A dragon has their breath weapon, has like a wing attack. They can buff with their wings. They can swing their tail around, or they have a human form typically, which is a bit of a spellcaster. A relatable thing for you guys recently, but like using a little bit of ingenuity and taking a room like let's say a room full of treasure. You can have it that the dragon, if they retreat and are allowed to retreat into the treasure, they can begin to regain health points, which is not a traditional thing that's in the monster manual, but like the moment that creates and the intensity in the battle and the strategic change to that fight because of that is big. And so I think having those moments where a character and a player both coming to that and being like, wow, that is not what I expected.
Yeah.
That is not like a by the book move.
Yeah.
Like we're in dangerous territory now, we're not in the common ground. And I think there's an element of interest and I think having these bigger monsters and these big centerpiece monsters be unique in and of their own right is something that I will attempt to continue to do and really build monsters that fit the scenario, fit the story, and hopefully give you as a party unique challenges.
I think that's awesome. I think it's awesome that you do that and you got that kind of foresight to see that, all these monsters of a particular type are not clones. They're not all the same. They've all got slightly different nuances and skill sets and stuff and play up based on their scenario. So that's awesome. Let's just go back to that dragon fight for a moment.
Yeah.
That wasn't supposed to happen. I think you remember saying,
no.
After stream, you're like,
no.
You guys, you were not meant to go there and do that, but we did.
No. In a sense, because the world, and I say the world being like, I decided that the world would react in a certain way, and you guys didn't react in the way that the world expected. And I think that's very natural and a cool interaction. In that fight, just to reveal the curtain a little bit, I had planned for you to all be captives under Red Helm's father. In that moment, he was showing you all that to boast before, using his spellcaster to just sleep you all and have you guys wake up in a prison, And one by one, each of you are like, no, actually, I've got Fey ancestry. I don't actually get put to sleep. And then someone else like, yeah, no, me too. And I was like, all right, which of you actually did fall asleep? It's like one person. And I was like, all right, well, this is different. And then suddenly it was like, banish. And she was gone. She missed her save. And I was like, wow, this changes a few things.
So you had no anticipation that, you fully expected us all to just be gone and captured and that was it.
Of course, I'd gotten a nice prison cell ready for you all. Like I'd gotten a nice map together. It was going to be great. And then immediately, I was just done. That's out the window. All right, what's the session got in front of us? Because I don't know.
Hence why we see a lot of Robin special maps, because you probably put effort into these nice looking maps, and then we never see them.
That is sometimes the case. When it's not laziness, it's because you guys take a sharp left turn.
Yeah,
it's definitely interesting to DM for you all.
As a DM of the campaign, what would you say has been your how am I going to word this? Either your proudest encounter or your the most amazing battle that we've had?
Most amazing battle. God, we've had so many cool battles. It's hard to look past. Probably for me, the coolest encounter ended up being the Puzzle Master that last time.
Oh yeah.
Just putting that, I put in front of you all an impossible choice. Half of you weren't going to be leaving there. Right? That was what ended up being the option, right? Which side of you sacrifices the most gets out. And so I expected to lose some party members.
Really?
Well, that was what's on the table. That was the prize. It's either you leave or you stay. It got to the point where I was like, wow, this is what's happening right now. And I sort of started seeing some of the sacrifices that Red Helm was putting down, and started seeing some of the stuff that other people were placing, and I was like, wow, you guys are gonna have to try and figure out a way to be like, hey, I'll kind of leave and I'll stay, and I was waiting for that sacrifice, and I'd been like, okay, this is a corner, this you guys have got a wall behind you, there's nowhere else to go, and just that moment of having Tia come in and just change things, and it was so perfect being Tia and the scale, and
absolutely.
And that moment of just the DM of Doom, who quite an iconic character at this point.
Puzzle Master, you mean?
Sorry.
You're the DM of Doom. Iconic character.
Yeah, it's not the same thing at all. Nothing. No, so yeah, having the Puzzle Master just trapped in there by his own world and the rules of his own world was just such a cool moment, and completely threw me as a DM off, right? You cannot prepare for that, and that moment where Dave was able to with Xander, put down his mace, which was actually surprisingly just impactful. It was just such a cool moment to be like, I'm giving up a core part of my character in order for us to get out of here. And I was like, that is, you guys might have died, but I think this is a way cooler encounter as a result of all of this. And leaving there with Tia, bestowing upon him a new mace, a mace of Tia of Justice, and seeing that reflect now even into the next couple of sessions. He is devout towards Tia, clinging on to the new identity that was sort of chosen instead of just thrust upon him by his memories. That was really cool. And to be fair, I think we've kind of reached the point where you guys have all been playing such awesome characters and have really grown into your characters that these last couple of sessions have just, all of them have just been like, that is such a cool moment. I'm so enthralled by just watching you guys just interact and overcome the reality of the world.
Peak D&D, right?
Another one being, it is, right? The one that recently, last session, was when your character Ren, talked to Red Helm, and that quote is you want the first decision you make as a ruler be one of deception, and I was like, wow, that is profound. I think we all just a little bit taken aback, and I was like, this is this is so fitting to be here in the moment where you see a leader for the first time have to make that first lie for the good of the people, but obviously, intentionally misleading them. And I think that was just such a cool ending to showcase some of that, the hidden bias of power and leadership and wealth. I was like, we couldn't have planned that kind of story. We couldn't have sat down and wrote that and planned to reveal that, all that. Always so cool to see it all just develop naturally.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I after Bren came up with that statement, it was so good just seeing Red's face, just like, oh shit, what do I do? Because that's what I was trying to lead up to, though, or not lead up to that moment, but get understanding of in that last session was, what are we doing with this cash? Are we using it for the city? Are we going to just take it and run? And I couldn't get it. I was not clear on the result. So when it came down to, we're going to take it and get the hell out of here, I was like, really? Or whatever the decision was, it just didn't feel right.
No, and it was a little bit greedy, right? Like, the whole party was like, are we going to lose all of this money that we've worked so damn hard for?
Yeah.
And I just could feel the tear in, like, moral correctness and, like, reward for all the hard work, and, like, we're owed this money. And it was kind of, like, really interesting to see those two halves interact.
Absolutely. You did an awesome job of putting in us, like, getting us I don't know whether you did that through manipulating the story or we just did it to ourselves, that for us to get into that moral dilemma situation. Great moments come out of those tough decisions.
I think it's a testament of both sides of the table, right? Like, I can lead the horse to water, but I can't make them drink. It's like there's if you're not playing your characters faithfully, that moment is just, haha, let's trick the peasants to get money, right? Like it's just like let's get our RPG points higher.
Yeah.
But I think that's what makes D&D fun, is that there's trade-offs, and sometimes there's a sacrifice, and may that be your character, may that be like a reward that you've been working towards for the sake of the people. Like, that's why D&D to me is such a beautiful game, is because it can do that.
I occasionally try to play a little bit of a similar RPG with the kids, and they always freak out when they don't, like, get a high number. Like, oh, I want to do it again, give me another chance. I'm like, it's okay. Low rolls are character building. Everything's going to be fine. And I think that's like, there's a thing in what they talked about in Dungeon Mastering, which is helping the players fail forward. And it's like, yes, getting a 3 sucks, but how do we take a failure and turn it into a triumphant comeback, instead of being just like, you suck, your character wasn't good enough, let's move on. They talk about, and I watch a lot of YouTube videos, but the great example was Indiana Jones. Like, he would leap to try and get to the other side of a bridge that's collapsing, and as he leaps from one side to the other, he misses the ledge. But instead of him just plummeting to his death, he scrambles and grabs, like, a vine. And from there, he has to try and, with his strength, climb up over it and try and get there again. And then in D&D, we can have that. Maybe you fail your dex save, you drop, and then suddenly you're hanging by a root, and you have to do a strength saving throw to slowly climb your way up there. But it leads to a really cool situation that your character's not incompetent. It's just like it took you a bit longer to get there because of circumstance. And I think it's something that's really important to focus on as a DM, is don't take away the fact that your characters are actually really efficient characters. Like, they are strong, they are fast, they are smart. Sometimes so much so that they're fighting demons. They jumping over a little bridge is not actually going to be that bad for them or that tough. So, killing them as a result of that is stupid. But, creating interesting suspense as a result of, like, the environment is a much better way to, communicate those failures as you slowly fail while progressing the story forward. I love that fact that failing forward, so it still progresses, builds character. It's not like, yeah, you this is your only shot, you stuffed it up. Sorry, tough luck. It's like
Next character,
you've just got a couple of extra steps to get to where you want to be potentially. That's
Yep.
I hadn't thought of it like that, so that's awesome. How can you think of any moment that we might have had as a fairly new group where we've just really not gone about things the wrong way, but just done things wrong, whether it be, you know, misreading our character sheets or stuffing up, or, you know, I'm gonna roll just this, that, and the other, and DM, figure out what I'm doing. How do you resolve those situations? Because the only time we seem to see you get stunned is when we destroy a beholder in front of you, for example. Everything else, all the chaos that goes on behind the scenes, like on the Roll20, there's dice flying everywhere for God knows whatever reason. How do you reconcile all that when you're just trying to manage a story?
I guess for me, especially when you talk about a early game like failure, and I think it's important as a DM, you know, there's no real failure, right? Like, and I'm very, very passionate about that, and I hope I've portrayed that, you know, as a new group. There's never been a point where you guys played wrong. There was never a point where I was like, oh, you guys did something that, you know, you ruined the game for me because you didn't play by the rules. I very intentionally keep things flexible to allow you guys to have moments that are a bit nonsensical, have moments that are, you know, less than optimal. You know, you talk about throwing that rock through that window. Was that a ideal choice? Was that the best strategic move in that moment? No. Did it resolve in a cool way that allowed you guys to end up rescuing the person you were trying to achieve in the end? Yes. But in that moment, it did cause some disruption for you, and you did end up getting obviously caught and spotted before you might have been ready for it. And a good example of that is the story at that point might not have had you facing those enemies yet, right? It may have been that it was guiding for more of a stealthy approach, but having that moment and having there be real consequences for those actions is how the world reacts. And I think the thing I always think about, and I try my best to, obviously, if we talk about processing all of that chaos into a direction, I just think about it, if somebody threw the rock through my window, how would I react? You know, if I was up to no good, you know, what would be the outcome? And I think just trying to keep that bit of a real lens on it, I just pass that information. Like if they're going to overreact and start to try and fight you, then that's what they do. And I think most of the time I get that right. You know, I can still fail. I'm only human, but there's a lot of just being able to react quickly, and a lot of what I've learned over the years is how to, you know, take a left turn, like you talk about the dragon fight, and actually make something epic out of it. You know, like in that moment, I had to very quickly pass all of that new information, like what happens when they come back, what does this mean for the cache, what does this mean for the dad, you know, how does this all factor in? And I had to just be like, all right, this is, I know what the dragon wants to do, I know what Red Helm's dad has in mind. How do we take those motivations and relay them into a course of action for the rest of the session? And that's sort of the quick switch in my head that just goes off and be like, all right, cool, that's what they're going to do. And we just go with it.
But how long does that take, though? Because, you know, there's only been a couple of times where it looks like you're like really trying to think, okay, what happens next? But otherwise, it's just like we can do the craziest stuff and like, okay, cool, then this happens. Like, there's only been a couple of times where you've gone, okay, let me just stop and think about what to do now. Like the Beholder example is a classic example where you just really took a few moments to compose yourself and think, what happens next?
I guess for me, it's not very hard for me to come up with what happens next. The reason I pause is not because I can't think of something quickly. It's more that, wow, this is an important situation, right? Those are like the crossroads when you think back to like the pathways of the campaign and where they branch off. Those moments where I pause are typically where you guys have done something that's altered the world, right? I pause because there's ramifications that extend beyond just this moment, and I have to figure those out first, just to be like, okay, cool, because that happens, wow, that means that, you know, this group is suddenly free to act, and well, those orcs, they're gonna have the perfect avenue. And it's like there's like click click click, and then I'm like, all right, this is what happens. And like I figure the next couple of jumps and what this means, and then like it's easy for me to DM again, because I have in my head, you know, the series of events that you guys have just triggered as a result of your action. And that's kind of what those pauses entail.
Right. So you're thinking like not just what happens in the next moment here, but how does that impact like the next big chunk of the story, because that makes the next micro moment much easier to get to those other big moments.
Yeah. So like for example, like killing Xanathar ended up in the destruction of most of Waterdeep, right? Like
it really did. Very quickly.
There's this one-to-one relationship when you think about it like that, and it's those kind of things that, you know, even in that moment, like I did not foretell that would be the outcome. It was like there was this, like there's a few leaps that happen, and it's really in processing it after the sessions. And you know, the way I prepare is throughout the week I'm just thinking about the story. I'm thinking about what's being done, and I'm also trying to like think about in a grander scheme what other parties are going to do as a result of what you guys accomplished. So it's, if you've ever played something like Civilization or those kind of 4X games, it's like you guys make your move, and then you guys end your turn, and then all of the world reacts, and then they all have their turns, and it's kind of a bit like that when you are dealing with these multiple organizations where they've all trying to enact their motivation upon the world. And as a DM, that's, I think, one of the things I have the most difficulty with is trying to create a world that's alive. You know, because it is so complex to have all of these things occurring simultaneously with trying to obviously focus on where you guys are going. And it's when you, for example, one of the key moments like that is you all were tunnel visioned as a result of, like, you know, Xanathar's whole big fight and the orc showing up, where you led to one of the other factions, who was the Warforged entertainer, the owner of those guys. He left the city. He sailed away, and that was one of those situations where you guys, as a result of the commotion, you caused some NPCs to make a drastic change in their behavior. You know, that guy was never supposed to leave Waterdeep.
That was really hard. That was like our only lead, like a solid lead to the gold, and you're like, yeah, no, he's gone now. You've got nothing.
Yeah, you've got nothing. And like that's another clear moment. I was like, you guys, as a result of your actions, have caused most of your leads to disappear. Like, there is no more Dragon Heist because all of that has been blown up because of the fact that the city's in complete turmoil. And as a result of obviously the Shadow Demon crushing some of that and opening up that cache, it was revealed that it actually already been taken by another player in this race.
Did you find, just talking about the cache had already been taken, I would feel this if I was DMing, but did you feel at all a bit like frustrated that we wouldn't take your hook so quickly and follow the elf?
Never.
No?
Never. Like, I just, you know, as a DM, there's a trap you can fall into that is like the us versus them sort of thing. It's like, you guys are killing me and my players, right? Like, if I put something in front of you and you don't take it, then you're not playing my game. And I play very differently. It's never you killing my monsters. It's us as a group, telling a fun story, and I'm just adding obstacles. Like I still side with you guys as the group. And so when you guys are doing stuff like that, and obviously making your own path through the obstacles I set for you, that's your job. I just put the obstacles there, and the way I DM is I generate the outcome of your actions, not because I plan this is going to happen and that's going to happen and that's going to happen. I react. I give you guys a choice, and then once you make your choice, I basically create the next piece. So that's how I'm always able to let it happen, or have something for you to go to, because most of the time I really, in that choice that you're given, when I say do whatever is right for your characters, I mean it, because there's really no wrong pathway. You guys could have decided to talk to her and find out about her motivations and potentially convince her to betray Red's dad, and that would have completely changed the outcome of the campaign. You guys could have slept with her and been manipulated by her, and led down a path as well in that regard. There was just so many options, and for me as a DM, the value I bring, I believe, is by letting you guys do what you need to, and for me just to be the storyteller and to weave the world around your decisions. And I think that's a good example of that.
Like, I get it 100%. You're trying to let us roll with the punches and figure out our own path. But when you put in front of us a choice of 26 lockers that has a key combination to getting into the next step, and it takes us like a month in real life time to get there, you must be like just coming out of those sessions just going, come on guys, any word will do.
I mean, at that point I was having a blast. Like I loved Refuge. I loved the there's obviously the frustration, and I appreciate that, but it's also like the little discoveries that you guys make every time the loop happened. Every time a new loop happened, you got to see a new part of the story that you hadn't experienced before, because you died or you'd gone to explore something else. And for me, I was so hoping that you guys would just explore enough of it to see all the cool little bits that were hiding before you guys were able to solve it. So in a way, I was like, take your time. There's plenty more to experience.
How much of that whole town did you reckon we saw? That whole like mini?
I think you guys saw most of the stuff that I really liked in there. Like, you guys got to talk to the witch. You guys solved the interaction with the bandits really cleanly. There was an outcome there where you guys kind of scared the bandits a little bit, and they ended up fighting you, and trying to stop you from stopping them, getting the diamonds in the bank. The brother that's there as a skeleton in a cave, he's just hanging out, and like, he's just such a cool character. I ended up in that in that playthrough really loving Cassidy as a character.
Oh yeah,
just,
I know you did.
Just the redneck. I just, like, as a DM, you kind of just get a feel for these characters, and you end up just enjoying them, and they become a part of your world. And I was like, I don't want her to stop. She's awesome.
when you're onto a good character, when you put every bit of effort into a new voice.
Oh yeah, and she made me smile. Like, I looked forward to just putting on that redneck accent and just being just absolutely oblivious and just wanting to blow stuff up. She was just such a character.
What were you thinking what did you think when we had this cup, and you gave us again a couple of moral dilemmas to choose from? You were really trying to tempt each of us with trying to clean up our own mess of a past. What would have happened if one of us said yes? That would have been very similar to what kind of happened with Zim. Right.
Poof. But more to the point, it would have changed history for everybody else. That would have been the result. So we had those cool moments where I think we saw a little bit of the the future that was like waiting for you all.
Mm-hmm.
It like, Zim was there with his brother, hiding as the enemy sort of marched through the town, and we saw a little glimpse of some of these other possible realities. And if one of you taken it, that would have been probably the end of the campaign. It would have been
Oh, jeez.
this is like, you guys have so fundamentally changed the world that none of you as a party would exist together in this time and space anymore.
How confident were you that we weren't going to take the bait then?
I hope you would. As a DM, I my whole focus was on tempting each of you in a way that only someone who was intimately familiar with your characters would be able to do. And that was the only thing I was focusing on, and that was I think what makes those moments so powerful is that the temptation is real, and it's like your character has to come to the table and say, this is what I've always wanted, but I have to now think about the future, and that's a really cool thing that I couldn't have accomplished unless I gave you guys a tangible, real option that was there to take if you wanted to.
It was really good. It was like, I know Red was about to go through with it, and he would have screwed that whole thing. I'm glad that we got him out of that mess. And then the ultimate, not sacrifice, but natural one, that saw Zim fall into the cup and just bamf away.
That was rough. That was very rough.
That was troubling rolls. It was so bad.
I've spoken about this a few times, but I very rarely kill characters. That was probably the second player death in the 4 years I've been DMing. And it was a result of 3 failures and dealing with something that was just that powerful, right? It was not a matter of like, just, I felt in that moment, I was like, this is the only thing that's justified. And even then, I gave you guys the chance to roll on that table. There was an outcome, there was multiple outcomes. And just as a result of the rolls, the end thing was that Zim and the cup just disappeared.
Was it?
It's just so.
Yeah.
Yeah, go for it.
Was there any possibility of that roll? What was the likelihood in that roll that Zim would have stayed with us? Was it high or low?
I think each of the rolls ended up being a huge change in some way.
Okay.
Right? Like, they all had changes that they could have applied. And I think regardless of what we ended up rolling, the campaign would have been very different.
Wow.
I think this one ended up allowing us to continue the story without Zim, but it was still, for Zim, obviously, his entire world disappeared. So like, for that one character, that was a huge change, and for the rest of the party, just a moment where you guys lost a core part of what had made you a successful group.
It wasn't even lost like in a lengthy, hard-won battle. It was just
instantly.
What? He's gone.
Gone.
It was so good though.
And that's one of those moments where you're like, wow, I didn't plan on that, and neither did you guys. So it's like the game kind of does this to us sometimes. It's like the outcome of it is in the mixture of both of our efforts to play our characters and play the game. Sometimes these cool, disastrous things happen, and inversely, sometimes they're going to be just hugely positive things that happen that nobody expected. And I think that's the give and the take of the story and the dice.
Yeah, 100%. So good. I think that, like, in our conversation today, I've been thinking about so many, I guess, key highlight moments we've had over the last, when did we start this? January 2020, maybe?
Something like that, yeah.
A year and a bit. And yeah, there's been no shortage of them. Tell me, going back to what we talked about way at the start, what were some of the things, what do you think, what were some of the key, I guess, plot points that we kind of missed out on when you were like, oh, there goes the Dragon Heist module. We're on our own now. I mean, clearly, I think we went way off course, or not off course. We pivoted away from the module. Obviously, when Xanathar died, but then that was the moment, right? That was the moment. But before that, how much was there that we...
See, I think before that there was like, we were still following it, and we were kind of doing our due diligence and going through the module. But like, I'd already come to the conclusion that the module wasn't really fit for purpose for the group. Like we kind of joke about the murder hobo nature of our group, and I spoke a bit earlier about how I realized that some of the intrigue and the politics are going to be a bit hard to focus on. So, right there and then, the game already, as a result of just your group and the actions we've had so far, the lens of it changed and the focus kind of changed a bit. So that was the first thing. And then we obviously started to, I think we had a bit of a shift when in the original game, just for a bit of, lifting the curtains, the Stone of Galore is in and of itself the final piece of the puzzle. It is the key to finding the cache. But there's three key villains that make up Waterdeep that all have obviously a desire for the cache, and each of them had, like in the original module, one of the issues that I was sort of facing is that these are such cool characters that I wanted a chance for you all to interact with them directly. And so doing the individual eyes of the stone allowed each of those villains to actually own one of those eyes. So it gave me an opportunity to actually lead you guys to explore and see some of the politics, but on a very much a in-your-face kind of a way. This was this guy, this is his motivations. But as a result of killing Xanathar, you guys kind of found the first one and caused such turmoil that obviously the rest weren't going to show themselves. So I think that would have been the thing. Like there's still a lot of story and a lot of interesting characters that we didn't get to see. But I think as a result of what we did, we found ourselves seeing so many cool characters as well that we wouldn't have seen had you not taken that turn. Yeah. So I think, yes, it would have been different, but I don't think it was necessarily bad.
No.
And in the end, I think it ended up making it ours and really epic as a result.
Yeah, it started to feel weird, I guess, around July or August, still doing the stream, Waterdeep Dragon Heist, because like now we're starting to get into traveling towards Baldur's Gate, and it's like, what is going on? Like there ain't no gold here, there's no Waterdeep left, but
that's the thing, we really did end up creating a reality, starting off from the books, but you guys had your effect on the world, and it ended up being that the gold ended up being taken to Baldur's Gate, and I wouldn't have changed that for anything, because the whole way that we got to, as a group, help Red redeem his past and avenge his mother and all that stuff, which is obviously so unique to this party. That story was, for me, had more meaning than the entire written adventure that was Waterdeep Dragon Heist, and I'd throw that book out the window again any day.
And there's still so many backstories to try and unpick at a later date.
And we will definitely enjoy that. I've been thinking about them. I've been having a little think.
Honest to God, when Zim got zapped away, it took me a little while to then realize, oh shit, there's basically no way that I can see that Ren would be saved now, because Zim had half the components from that bad dude to try and solve that. Like, But anyway.
That's one of those things. It's like, what does this mean? is Ren going to be safe long term? Is this struggle going to be, continue to be won by you, or is it eventually going to be a struggle that rears its ugly head again? And we will definitely enjoy seeing the outcome of that in future episodes.
We absolutely will. Where to from here? We finished up the battle for Baldur's Gate in pretty epic style. I know you mentioned last session to have a think about what we would do next as individuals. Where do you think we'll go, as much as you can share?
So I think there's some interesting stuff that can be done. Like I think there's still a chance to do something with the Winchester Shield. I think there's, like, we chatted today a bit in our group chat about Bear and the story that never really unfolded for his character. There's these little things that now, given money, wealth, and I guess a decision to be made by each of you, do you continue as adventurers? Is that something that your character wants now that they kind of set up? Do you decide to go into build your own investigation firm to help other people? Do you decide that you want to quit this life entirely and become a carpenter? For example, does Ren decide, let's retire into the woods, and after becoming wealthy, maybe just invest back in and build herself a fortress within the forest? I won't even begin to speculate where I think you as a group will go. This is going back to a bit of my DMing style. I am intentionally not trying to guess where any of you are going.
Yeah.
I know where the world is at, and I know where we might end up as a world, but very intentionally, I want this to be collaborative. I want each of you to tell me what you do with the world. It's not just mine, it's all of ours. And so this is one of those cool ones where I think you guys will get to dictate the outcome of the world in general, and the legacy that you leave as we sort of look into the next 1 to 5 years. But that 1 to 5 years is kind of where I want it. I don't want to look too far into the future, because I want us to kind of keep some of the mystery alive and provide ourselves some room to explore some of the rest of it, but through the lens of your characters now that they are wealthy and that they have been able to do whatever they want to do. And I think there's some cool stories there to be told in the light of maybe a bit more of a mature character, or a wealthier character, or somebody more powerful and definitely more well armed in Bear's case, as we head into those we'll call it the Tales of Waterdeep.
I love this
expansion.
I love this way we're wrapping up this campaign and leaving so many options out there to dive back into it whenever we want to, because you spend a year, 2 years, whatever the case might be, working with these characters. You get pretty attached to who they are and how they operate. So it's going to be good to have these. I mean, we haven't really touched on Claymore's backstory, which is going to be, sounds like it's going to be pretty huge.
It looks like really fun.
Bear's got his. I don't know whether Xander's got much going on upstairs, but
we don't know, do we?
And then obviously Red Helm is pretty well wrapped up, and then Wuthering still has lots going on. So I think it's so good that there's so many options to just dive back in at any point and pick those characters up.
And I think one of the interesting questions is that as a result of the end of this campaign, what happened to Zim?
Yeah.
Let's not discount the little bugger.
Zim
he disappeared. Lives. Potentially.
Oh. There's
so
a bit of a
we may or may not see Zim in the future, or in the past, depending on how things go.
Wow. I'll tell you what, I'm still really intrigued to see if there's anything else in the bag of necessity. The secret bag. Apparently
now,
we don't need
how is that for, in every situation you've been up until that point, nothing comes up, the thing doesn't open. And in that moment, and that bag led to the revolution of Baldur's Gate.
Yeah, it was so good. There's got to be some
Oh
other
god,
magic.
that was some of the coolest sessions I've ever DM'd. Was some of that stuff.
Yeah.
Like combat light, but just I guess it's so unusual for a conversation between two people to end up having so much ride on it.
Mm-hmm.
And that was what was that sort of court scene for me. Depending on what the outcome was for that case, it either would have resulted in, Red's dad winning and kind of returning to his cache, nullifying all that you guys have sort of accomplished, or the inverse of that, which is what we saw, which ended up being this very much new age of Baldur's Gate, which at every point you guys had some influence in stopping or accelerating, as you guys ended up sort of choosing to do with the session.
It felt like the crowd was leading us along in that last session, the mob. But
they definitely were influential.
Yeah, they're pretty influential. So good. Any last nuggets you want to leave us with before we wrap up for tonight? What's your
last nuggets? I guess I have one question for you that I'd
fire away.
love to hear. So we've had a lot about, from my perspective, what it was like DMing for you all. But you coming to this you obviously had some knowledge of D&D from watching other people play, and obviously some very basic one-shots and things. But how do you feel? What was the highlight for you, and what was your experience coming into your first sort of full campaign as a player?
I loved every minute of it, to be honest. Like from the chaos at the start, where everyone was just trying to jump in and just hack and slash things, to every moment we took a wrong step or did a wrong thing. Like, I'm going to step in the water. Oh no, that's not water, that's acid. Things like that. Just all those little moments which just made it. Some of the moments I really enjoyed were even just the PC moments, where you would just take a back seat, there was no other things going on, and the characters were just trying to get to know each other and the environment they were in. So I think those kind of interactions help the party figure out how to gel better as characters, but also as players, how to engage with that character better, how to engage with those other personas better. Big moments for me has got to be the Zim fireball, the first sexy fireball we saw, because I think that really put a rift for a long while between Red and Zim.
Yep, that was interesting for sure.
Yeah. Obviously the encounter with Zorgog was epic, and I still trying to find where this amazing ghostly light lit up bow exists. That's my next thing.
Write that one down.
Don't forget about it. That's my quest. So many, man. As we've been talking tonight, like the obviously the Xanathar death, huge, just clutch moment. There's so many clutch moments. I don't know if I'm answering your question or not, just going off on a tangent.
Tangents are the best. That's the joy of an interview.
One of the moments which got me is like, oh shit, that just happened, was when one of the characters were thrown down the stairs because they were on fire.
Yep.
Early on in the campaign, we needed a torch. They were lit on fire. Just throw them down the stairs.
It's such a party thing to do. Like, this will only happen in this game.
Just those early days of just absolute chaos. But I think thinking that through now, I really enjoy where we all have reached with our characters and interactions around. Everyone knows when it's their moment to shine, and everyone else respects that. Yeah, so it's not
huge, right?
Yeah, not everyone trying to jump in over everybody else. Everyone knows when it's their moment, and I think that worked really well. Otherwise, it'd be madness.
I think that shows the maturity of our group, and I think we've all learnt to love each other's characters, and we've all we want to see them succeed, and we want to see them do cool stuff, and honestly, for some groups, they never reach that point. They never have the moment where they they can sort of just give other people the floor.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're obviously all at a good spot, but also like the stream being what it is, it's been cool to be like, we want to see those little moments, those little cinematic pieces with each of the characters, and we all are kind of excited to see what that looks like, and it's been really good.
Yeah.
I'll have one more question, if and then I'll leave with a bit of a teaser. The question is that now that you've sort of done your first campaign, you've played it, and you've sort of gotten to the end, what are you taking to the next campaign that you think you can sort of do better and make it build those moments quicker and help you foster that cool energy earlier on in the campaign?
I think one thing that I will take into the next campaign is a better understanding of how my character fits into the environment. I had no idea coming into this campaign what Waterdeep was about. Didn't know it was a big city. Didn't know the whole campaign was based in a cityscape. So bringing a ranger with all his background and expertise in forest and nature.
That was a bit of a... it ended up not being as useful as intended.
Absolutely. All these amazing, race class traits I've got, like, what? Useless. So one learning I'm taking into next campaign is have a really good understanding of well, not a really good understanding, but a bit of an idea of what the world and the environment looks like.
Yeah.
To develop a character which can better take advantage of that, and also find more ways to fit in parts of their own backstory and character, and I guess be part of that world more. Because I think Ren was a bit disjointed from Waterdeep.
But quite a cool remove character as a result, right? Like, she often was like the sense of the group, because she kind of tried to be a little bit more mature and a little bit more, I guess, calculating about what was going on. Probably a nice balance to some of the other shenanigans.
When all hell's breaking loose around you, someone has to be the voice of reason.
But I mean, I guess from that point of view, that's what makes Session Zero so important, right?
Yeah.
And it's something that I too will take into account. We started this campaign not expecting it to become a stream.
No.
And as a result, we were very casual in our character creation, and very casual in the way we approached. We just played, and that was it. We started on a Thursday, we ended on a Thursday, and that was the end. But it's sort of become a bigger piece of all of our lives now, I think. And I think as we head into Session Zero, once we wrap up this campaign, that'll be one of those things we all come to the table with is, this is my character. How do I make it a part of the world? How do I connect myself to all of you in my character creation in a way that makes it, so much better from hitting the ground running? And I think that'll be really fun for us all to delve into, and then hopefully bring to the stream.
Yeah, 100%.
In a nice way.
That is one thing I'm trying to put together for the next character, is exactly that. How does my character have existing or some other connections to the other characters, so we're not a party of individuals starting off?
Yeah. And I think there's really clean examples of that in media. Like, I know Critical Role, for example, that'll have like 3 of them already having known each other and have traveled together for a while and have a little bit of a background together and a bit of camaraderie already in their sort of own smaller group, and bringing that into the wider dynamic. So I look forward to seeing what the Raging Roll's spin on some of that sort of more traditional idea will be.
I'm looking forward to it. We're kicking that off in just a couple of weeks.
Just a couple of weeks, so that'll be something to really look forward to. And I shared with the group the first of a series of little teasers that I'm doing, and I started painting up some of the iconic characters of the next campaign. And we saw Gradius Stoneborn with the glowing twins. What did you think of that? What was your initial gut reaction?
First, fantastic paintwork.
Thank you.
What did I think of it? I just need to refresh my memory as I try and search for that message. And I can't find it.
He's out there somewhere.
Oh, hang on.
You can Control F teaser if you want.
Oh, no, here we go. Oh, yes. Gradius Stoneborn. Yeah, fantastic paintwork, for sure. I think that this guy looks pretty menacing, and I know you've given us some clues about the world that's going to exist, and it looks like he shouldn't fit in that world.
It does, doesn't it?
So that's concerning.
No, indeed. And any idea of we talk about the name of it being the Call of the Seven Circles. Any initial hints, and I'll look forward to checking back on this later. But any idea possibly of what that could mean or what that is hinting towards?
Not really. I mean, it's obviously not seasons. Is it some kind of artifact that needs to be found? Is there 7 artifacts that need to be found to create some other thing or do some other thing? Is it? I really don't know, because that wasn't quite the same thing you told us last week. It's a little bit different. So now I'm stumped.
So yeah, we're slowly getting there, and it's all coming together nicely. And I think we will be seeing very clearly what a world re-immersed in magic looks like, and really have an understanding of I guess the intense power and the intense chaos that comes with magic. And hopefully we'll see sort of firsthand what the differences are with the world without and then a world with, as we delve into the call of the 7 circles.
It's elements, isn't it? It's elements, different elements.
Who knows? Who knows? What's Gradius got to do with it? You think he's like a stone bender?
No, I don't. I think he's dead. But it is going to be awesome, and we're looking to do like a session 0 character breakdown to kick off the homebrew, are we not?
We are, yeah.
So
we'll definitely have a fun time off stream first of all.
Yep.
And then bringing all of those ideas and some of that history to the game table. I think one of the fun ways is to do those like cool character introductions and to kind of do a little bit of a story of the brief background of each character in person. So we might do a recording each of those that we can kind of keep separate for the sake of the stream, and we can have those on replay if we want to, and give reintroductions to characters and things like that. But it'll be also nice for history's sake to be like, this is what my character is now, and then we can see that character develop over time as well.
I like it. We're going to get on the production tools and make that happen.
Looking forward to it. We've got to keep those interns employed.
Absolutely. Cool. Well, we might wrap it up there, I think, Robin. It's now just hit 10. It has been fantastic chatting with you about all things Waterdeep, Dragon Heist, Baldur's Gate, Demolition. Baldur's Gate Uprising? Whatever. Just the mess of cities and chaos.
That's a nice title, Baldur's Gate Uprising.
What a campaign, and just a little bit more to go to wrap that up.
No, it's been a pleasure.
Oh, he's on the break up.
Really appreciate it. A privilege to DM.
There you go. Yeah, man. Well, thank you so much again. Thanks for finding the time to have a chat with me today on this. It's rare to get you on recaps because, DM secrets and all. But it's been awesome. Secrets. It's good to see behind the curtain a little bit.
I love chatting about it, and I think the more we can get into this stuff, the better. But just after all the storyline has wafted from it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure we'll have another.
We might be able to do like an arc by arc recap next campaign. Maybe we'll try and aim for that, where we can have some of those pivotal moments and then kind of have like a capstone refresh of what's happened. And I'll be happy to jump on for those and provide a little bit of behind the scenes.
Excellent. Well, we'll hold you to it. All right, I'll let you go there, Robin. Thanks, everyone, for joining us tonight. We'll look forward to seeing you. Remember, we won't be having a show this Thursday because I'll be going away. But we'll be back next Thursday with the probably final or penultimate Waterdeep.
Yep, we'll see how we go.
See how we go. Right. Thanks, everyone. Cheers, Robin.
See ya.